So you bought an adventure bike. Yeah, me too. You want to travel long distance? Yeah, me too. Oh wait, your bike didn't come with anything to attach your luggage? Yeah, me too. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install the Touratech Pannier racks for the 2020 and 2021 Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports. I didn't plan on creating this video, but it is a bit of a challenge and there are no videos on YouTube on how to install this, including on the Touratech channel. Since it was a bit of a challenge for me to figure out, I thought I'd help out others who find a video explanation much easier than the IKEA style instructions that Touratech provides. I purchased a Touratech Pannier racks because it's compatible with the Low Rider soft bags I want to buy. They're expensive though. Let me know in the comments what bags you use on your adventures. Let's get started. First, let's lay out the components of the rack and the tools you'll use. There's a right and left rack, the rear bar that gives the rack rigidity, and all the required hardware goodies that's provided by Touratech. Touratech will have you go online to print out their instructions. I'm using air quotes here because those instructions amount to reading a comic book. I put a link in the description if you want to print them out yourself, but I guarantee you watching this video will be much more helpful. The tools you use will be a socket wrench, a 10mm socket, a 4 and 6mm hex, a torque wrench, some blue Loctite, and a lot of patience. Some tools you might find helpful are a 10mm ratchet wrench, short and long extensions, and some dish soap. Let's start by assembling the rear bar to the left and right sides of the rack. In the bag of hardware goodies, you'll find 2 end caps that you'll need to hammer into the ends of the rear bar. It's a tight fit, so I applied a bit of dish soap to help it in. I'm not certain that this really helped, and the end caps might have slid in fine without the soap. If you end up installing these without the dish soap, let me know in the comments how it worked for you. Turn the cap so the rounded end is facing the bolt hole on the end of the bar. These end caps are made of plastic, so be careful when hammering them in. Just give them light taps and make sure you install them in all the way. Next, grab 2 black washers, 2 10mm nuts, and the 2 smaller 4mm hex bolts and begin attaching the left and right sides of the rack. Don't fully tighten these yet. You'll add blue Loctite later before you torque it, and you need a bit of movement to install the rack on the bike. The front part of the rack will be installed between the frame and the passenger peg mounts. Let's now head over to the bike and begin loosening the mounts. This might be a bit of a challenge as you need to contort yourself under, behind, and around the bike to get these bolts loose. Adding to the challenge are the short heads of the bolts and the passenger peg mounts obstructing your contortions. I used 2 different extensions with a socket wrench and 2 different 10mm sockets, a regular and a deep socket, as I contorted myself into different positions to remove these bolts. After a bit of patience, the mounts will come off. Save the mount bolts. You reuse these to button everything up. Now it's time to move on to the mounts on each side of the rear seat. Inside each mount are threads where you'll need to install the top of the rack. First, you need to remove all 4 plugs to access the threads. When you're done removing all 4, insert each of the 4 mount extensions provided in your bag of goodies from Touratech. Now it's time to do something very satisfying: fitting the assembled rack onto the bike. This can be difficult, but just take your time and you'll get everything lined up. Looks good, huh? Well, don't celebrate just yet. There's more contorting to do in the next few steps. Let's move back to the passenger foot peg mounts. Begin by installing the peg mounts with the original bolts that we removed. The rack adds about 3mm between the frame and the peg mounts, so we'll put a 3mm spacer from the Touratech goodie bag on the lower parts of the mount where the rack isn't bolted in. Just get them threaded here. You'll need some movement here to fit the bolts on top. Let's head up there now and thread these 4 bolts into the top mount. Again, you may need a little bit of movement here to adjust the bolt at the passenger foot peg mounts and the rear bar. Let's head back to the peg mounts and begin tightening these bolts a little more. I found creative ways to access each bolt. Again, don't tighten these all the way. Switch back and forth between tightening the top mount bolts and the peg mount bolts. If necessary, loosen the bolts on the rear bar. Okay, now that everything is in place, it's time to torque every bolt to spec. Each torque spec is listed in the description of this video. Now it's time to test this out. Nice. It's strong, secure, and it looks great. Time for me to open up my wallet and buy some bags. Leave me your suggestions below.